what that is? Discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Let's fucking do this. Then do it. Do it 100%, because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
You gotta be a champion to become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success. It's episode 11 of The Coach's Show. I'm Mike Bianca, head coach of the New Orleans Hurricanes, joined by my friend Ryan Garay of the AC Diesel Camp. We've got a great show tonight. Even though we've lost Travis Lemansky, Mr. Lemansky was supposed to join us tonight. He had travel issues, as you can imagine. But we still got an exciting show for you tonight. Tonight, we've got Hailey Leyva, our WNXL correspondent, a brand new correspondent we're introducing tonight for the ICPL, Chris Hudson. And Ryan and I are going to talk about some pretty exciting things. We're going to talk about the practice that AC Diesel and the Hurricanes had recently, as well as the brackets for Las Vegas NXL MLPB.
Yeah, so I know this is kind of on the fly for you and I to do it this way, but we've had so many people sending questions and making comments on some of our other content that they want to see more stuff about how we prepare for practice and some of those kind of things. So we're going to show them our itinerary. I'm going to show them kind of my goals for the first event, and then we'll show the field layout that we played, and we can talk a little bit about that. And then we will dig into the brackets. A lot of conversation right now about the brackets, which I think is entertaining since we don't even know the roster of one team. So
That's right. And I still don't think we're done with some of the action with some. I mean, there's been a lot of camps that have been awfully quiet. So
well, and it certainly depends on what Todd does. We don't know who's going to try out for that team, right?
Exactly
So
right.
there could be guys from other teams going to try out that we don't even know about.
That's right.
So if another hole opens up on another squad, we could see some more moves. So
we certainly could.
Well, without further ado, let's bring Hailey in.
Hi.
Good evening. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning. Good evening.
Good morning. Good morning.
So I will say the most exciting and most recent news so far is that the team that's going to be taking over Destiny's spot in the WNXL, which is the team I used to play on, will be Tiki's Ohana. And they're going to be a brand new team out of Tiki's in Florida. And they will have just had their tryouts. And so it'll be very exciting to see who they pick up for their roster, because I know there's a lot of girls who play locally in Florida, but they also could be picking up some of maybe my ex-teammates or anyone else who's kind of in their free agency right now in the WNXL. So it'll be very exciting to see that new team pop up and see who they pick up for this season. Along with the San Francisco Sirens entering the WNXL Pro Division, that fills us out to 10 teams now, which kind of makes the brackets a little different than how they were before. So we'll have to see how that will work going for this season. So we added the Siricatos, the Sirens, and Tiki's Ohana. So 3 new teams for this year, which the Sirens, most of their girls used to play on the Sacramento Diamonds in the WNXL during the first year. So they're not like brand new to the WNXL Pro Division. They have their experience of playing against the pros. So it'll be cool to see them come back into the Pro Division and potentially play against some of the same teams. They went against the Siricatos a lot last year and battled for the top spot. So it'll be cool to see if they battle each other again in maybe any of the rounds of this upcoming year. So we have that. And then this one player from the Femmes, Adriana, she played with Femmes for most of last year, and then she's also going to be playing with the Sirens as well. So some more of the WNXL Pro experience adding to their roster. So that should help them out a bunch. They have experience for sure, and some of their girls on their team have been playing for around 10 years. So they have the experience level for sure. They're not brand new.
So the Siricatos and the Sirens, they were both amateur last year?
Yes.
Okay.
The Siricatos bumped up to the women's or the WNXL Pro at World Cup, and then the Sirens got bumped up for the 2024 season. So those two teams were the top amateur teams last year in the WNXL.
It's great.
But now the Sirens have several of the diamonds.
Yeah, all of the girls who were the diamonds before the diamonds weren't in the WNXL Pro anymore, before that team went away, they all played on the diamonds through the first year and then part of last year. And so now they went and formed the Sirens, and they also formed Sacramento Storm. And so both of those teams played in the WNXL Amateur last year, and now the Sirens moved up to Pro.
Excellent. Okay. And Tiki's Ohana is who bought the Destiny spot.
Yes.
Any confirmed Destiny players going to Ohana at this point, even though we know they've had trials?
Not that I know of. Most of my old teammates, like 3 of them got picked up by the Heroines. That's the only. Oh, and Michaela Wilkins went to Vibe. So those are the only ex-Destiny players who I know of who have gotten picked up. Nobody else at this time that I know of. If I had to guess, Lynn Trong, because she lives in California, she'll probably end up playing with one of the either Sacramento Storm or the Sirens. So I would guess she's going there. For the rest of us Destiny girls, including myself, no word on that yet. But
still just keeping it close to the chest. All right.
Yes.
All right. Anything else?
What was it? The Angels and then the Cheetahs both are holding tryouts the last weekend of January, which is January 27th and 28th. So any females looking for a team for this upcoming season, those are 2 really good opportunities to try out. The Angels are a newer team. Cheetah's a little more established, so it'd be cool to add some more faces to the WNXL.
Where are the Angels based out of?
GG Sports. Where? I don't know exactly where that is. I know GG Sports is where they play. Do y'all know where that is?
St. Louis.
Yeah, there it is. St. Yeah. And then
St.
the
Louis
Cheetahs
Angels.
tryout is in Virginia at Chesapeake Paintball.
Okay.
Yeah, that is all I have.
Okay.
Very cool.
Well,
all right.
excellent.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Hailey. And so we will be getting announcements soon where you will be landing for the season.
Yes. I kept saying like in like a month, but now probably like in a few weeks, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
People are gonna forget about me by the time that it like happens, and I'm like, oh my god, she's still playing.
Yeah, we're just gonna stop asking.
Yeah.
And then
exactly.
you're gonna say it, and we're gonna be like, we don't even want to know now.
Yeah, exactly. It's just irrelevant now. No one cares.
Right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Hailey.
Keep us posted. We'll, I guess, learn next week about where you're playing and how the Ohana tryouts and possibly the others were. All right. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Lots happening there. WNXL's growing a whole lot faster than I thought.
Yeah, well, we kind of talked about that when she mentioned the Cercados coming up, about how weird that was going to be to not have another team. So, if the Destiny spot sold, that there would be 9 teams. So it just makes sense that they would add another one, make it 10. And I'm sure they'll just do 2 brackets of 5 and,
Yes, sir.
Be a little old school with it. All right. Well, our next guest is our newest correspondent, which I'm really excited about. I've known this man for many, many years. In fact, when I first got into tournament paintball, there was an indoor field here in Oklahoma, and would go there on Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, Saturdays, and Sundays to play. And this young man was there most of those times. So here's Chris Hudson.
What's going on? Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm ecstatic. I get the privilege of being with 2 phenomenal coaches, and I just, I feel it in the air. This is nostalgia coming back to both bless us and curse us. You talk about an indoor field in Oklahoma that smelled something awful, and that's probably why I wasn't there all the time. That or I was, at 7th grade, piss poor grades, and you and the crew at the field were yelling at me that I had to do slightly better, both at the field and at home and in my my schooling. But
Yeah.
The reason I feel the nostalgia, Ryan, is because I've played a lot of 10-man paintball. I've been playing the ICPL since its inception, but I still get to say that the first 10-man I ever podiumed at was with the Oklahoma Hooligans and you. And I'll never forget you telling me, don't expect to play. It was a very, very abrupt, don't expect to play Ryan Gray moment. And you let me play 4 points. So I got to get a medal hanger and a second place at my first sort of 10-man World Cup. And I owe it to you and Avery and all the guys back on that team in that day, Tom Surratt and Jeremy Martin and everybody else from the Oklahoma and Texas crew.
Yeah, that was a fun time, man. Fun time. Well, so you kind of mentioned a little bit about playing the ICPL since its inception. Why don't you, just so the viewers have an idea of why you were chosen to be this correspondent, why don't you give them a little bit of your history with the ICPL?
Yeah, sure. The International Classic Paintball League is sort of the brainchild of Tom Cole and the folks who were resurging 10-man paintball at the time. We think about Tim Montresor. We think about where they hold the ICC, which is now called the Pittsburgh Open, and in Pennsylvania, the Badlands Field. You saw Fight Club and Philly Americans start to play 10-man again. And I think the NXL decided, let's have a project called the International Classic Paintball League. Let's tap into this resurgence of 10-man of mechanical paintball, right? The ICPL is a multi-format, multi-field, single format, 10-man, capture the flag, points-based system, just like it was in the 90s, 2000s, etc. It's 10 on 10. It's an absolute dream of 10 minutes smashing each other at 5.5 or faster, as long as you're using a mechanical gun. And all the teams came out the first year. They said, wow, this is epic. Let's do this. We had a hodgepodge of professional teams before the rules were more mature and amateur teams. I think Tom Cole had like 50 teams show up to the first ICPL back at the Badlands in Chicago. And it was unreal. I'm pretty sure Dynasty and Infamous and Adrenaline swept that event that year. They changed the rules slightly so that we now have things called majors and affiliates. A major event is an event that's required to be played, just like it is in the NXL for the rankings and the series championship. So it's required to keep you in the pro division. There's currently 25 teams in the pro division at the ICPL. Those teams have to pick an affiliate event for 50 points. They have to play the second or the sort of lower major, if you will, which this year will be in St. Louis. In years past, it's been kind of reassigned to different parks based on the field and the opportunity to play there. And then you're going to get 150 points for a championship that's always played traditionally either in Florida or at the end of the year in Chicago. In the 2024 season, it will be played in Florida in 2025. Unlike last year, the series championship was held in the Badlands in Chicago. So it's pretty epic. You've got everything from new school to old school to short to fat to fit to CrossFit to beautiful to ugly. You've got the Danny Mannings of the world, the Rocky Cagnotis, the Travis Lemanskis. You've got some of the little ninja NXL guys from your squads that play. AC Diesel's a phenomenal 10-man team, mostly because you guys just do things that us older crew just don't always see coming. But it's what makes it super exciting. So at an affiliate event, you can have as many pros as you want. At a major, you're only allowed 3 NXL pros on the roster. That's not playing. That's on the roster. And then there's an age marker that allows for older pros to play and not have it counted against the 3-person cap for NXL pros. But this year, I think we're already at 10 ICPL events, the 2 majors and 8 affiliates, the first of which is going to be Playa del Carmen in Mexico coming up. It's going to be at Playa Paintball Park. We've already got teams from Farside, Fight Club, you name it. You've got some really interesting assortment decided. This is the affiliate I want to play. I've played that event the last 4 years, and it's always the kickoff or the middle event of an ICPL season. This year, it is the kickoff down at Raul. For those of you who spend time at the NXL, Raul Ibarra, who works at the NXL registration tent, it's his home field. He runs the ICPL in Mexico. And so we're going to his home park. It's where it's been held the last 3 years. We'll follow that up with what was released yesterday, which is an invitational to Vegas for the ICPL. Tom Cole in the league hasn't done this before. It's the first time they're having an invitation-only ICPL affiliate event at the NXL, while all of the excitement is going on from the divisional fields all the way up to your guys' big field. There will be a special 10-man field in the back of the park that will be used for both 10-man amateur, which is electric, and the 10-man pro ICPL. 16 teams, first come, first serve. The 25 pro teams had the first right of refusal, if you will, to participate in the invitational. And that will be the second affiliate event. They're all across the country the rest of the year and abroad. There's affiliate events in the United Kingdom and France and Portugal. They're really doing the name justice. So we're 4 years in, and Tom Cole, the ICPL, the NXL have taken us now to more countries to play paintball, to be able to bring this 10-man format to other parts of the world and to show off some of the old wisdom, the old knowledge mixed with the new athleticism. It's really exciting time for us in the 10-man world.
That's very cool. Yeah. So the reason too for the championship not happening until 2025 is because of those events abroad, right? So that they can plan travel and those kind of things, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. They want to make sure that they can still hold events in November and December and get everybody here. With World Cup being where it's placed on the calendar and the holidays and everything else that goes on in that time period. Plus, there usually ends up being some sort of Polish affiliate event sometime in that time frame, or a North Carolina event that gets added. They have to be able to jam all of that in before the end of the year and then still hold a championship. And the way the points have traditionally shook out last year, Richie Malzusi, his team pulled it out, won the championship in Chicago for Team Image. This is all over the board going into that event. And this is what makes 10-man super exciting because of the point system, the way we do it, and not the way you guys have to deal with it. I think there were 4 teams going into the hunt at the season championship who one game, one extra flag hang would have made the difference in whether or not they'd have been series champions or not. So it's a really unique thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So the scoring is completely different, right?
100%. So 50 points for a flag pull. You're going to
flag hang, right?
Flag hang. You're going to get 20
20
points for the pull or whatever it might be. It's usually 2 points per kill, 1 point per live body for a total of 100 points. Okay. And believe it or not, you can get negative points. It is actually conceivable to do so. We don't have to start down a body like you guys do, but we do lose some points, and you can go in the negative. And every point matters. Every live body matters. Every kill matters. These tournaments in the ICPL are won on whether or not people can use the 10 minutes tactically and get down the field on either a hyperball field, a mounds field, a hybrid field, or where paintball all started in the woods.
Now, do penalties work the same way in the ICPL as they do in the?
Okay. They absolutely do. They are a bit more confusing because if you're in a giant woods field and the ref on the far tape throws a penalty, it's really hard for both the refs and the players to know who's being accounted for in that penalty, who's getting pulled. You see all sorts of chaos. Plus, this is 10-man. Well, you've got some guys who've played for a very, very long time. They're the type of guys that they haven't left the box and they start screaming for the penalty, but their gun hasn't turned the other direction yet. Or they're yelling about something they see on the bottom of your shoe while you're still on the start box. These are the same folks that are going to say, no, not me. I'm known for if the ref runs towards me, if I see the ref running towards me, I'm in the woods, I will run away. I will run as fast as I can to get away from that referee to make sure I'm not the guy who's going to be collateral damage. And by the way, there's nothing that happens in that instance. They just pull the next guy. So it's just me being very, very selfish. But
there used to be another, like if you ran away from a ref, you got another major. That's not the thing anymore, huh?
No, they just grab the next guy. They don't have time. There's chaos. They're trying to churn games. I mean, we play some of these events and you've got 60, 70 teams. If you include the pro teams plus the amateur teams, the volume is out of control. I mean, Pittsburgh Open is going to be 70 plus teams. That's a lot of teams they do a 5-man classic on the Friday, and then they do 10-man prelims on Saturday, and they get into Sunday. I mean, it's an intense deal.
Wow. It's exciting. We got to get out there and play.
Absolutely. Man, Chris coming with the fire, came prepared. Knew what he was going to say as soon as he got online. That's awesome. Well done, sir.
Any new teams or teams exiting, player moving around?
I can't speak of the exit, but I can say in terms of addition, Louisville Asylum was announced as the newest pro team. And, Kenny Shell, one of the leaders of that team, he actually, he's got his own creds. He played with Team Misfits last year at the Playa Classic, and he won it for him in the Mexican jungle. And now he's got his own pro team in the ICPL. Really excited for him. And also very happy the Misfits aren't going to get to acquire him for any events. It's very, very nice. And now in terms of players moving around, this is kind of a crazy year. We usually see the most amount of movement as a result of what you guys are doing at the NXL pro level. So it's not uncommon for the pros, those pros to make their arrangement with whoever the team owner or captain or coach is of the ICPL team and kind of switch seats or go wherever you go, but some teams have like a established stable that stays tried and true. For you, Ryan, Paulie and Mark will take a really great crew of guys to the events, and they're pretty much there's continuity there. Whereas if you're the Misfits, which is helmed by Matt Davis, they don't have a single pro. When people move on from the Misfits, it's usually because of interest, age, or time. They don't add weapons. They build a culture of brotherhood, whereas some of the more competitive teams are just looking to figure out what's the new weapon they can add, just like you guys do at your level. ICPL has become hyper competitive again. People are starting to move from older guy who's stationary in the back and shoots a lot of paint, which is still valuable, but less of them and more athletic, dynamic individuals. So the pros move around. And joining me this year, I haven't told anybody. So I've told you, I think, Ryan, but I haven't told anyone else other than a close handful of friends and family. But I've been playing with the Florida Annihilators for the last 4 years in the pro division. We finished second place at the Badlands of Chicago. We were the 5-man reigning champions for a while in the ICPL. We killed it, and Playa took first place at the pro event down there 2 years ago. But it was time to kind of shake things up. So I am leaving the Florida Annihilators. I'm joining Team Farside. I'll be joining John Rathbun and John Dresser and Aaron Tholey and Adam Faree and Matt Helgeson. I'm just super excited. A bunch of guys I play with on Extreme Rage in the NXL for Todd Adamson and others. So really pumped to join them. But the bigger coup is that one of the young and up and coming guys who I think is just killing it in your all's league at your level is coming with me from the Annihilators. Connor Kelly is going to be joining me on Team Farside. And so, we've traditionally been roommates over the last couple of years at tournaments. And, I can't think of anybody else I'd rather have clean up my mess and make me look good on my tape than a Connor Kelly. So I was really grateful he agreed to come help me not get fired the first year at Farside.
Connor's pretty good.
Yeah.
He's pretty good. Yeah. I think he's he'd be helpful on any team. So, all right. So you are moving
to Farside from the Annihilators.
All right, cool.
Taking Connor Kelly with him.
And
Todd Adamson, the Annihilators go way back.
Todd's one of the originals. He's one of the originals.
I wonder if he has anything to do with all of this and any info on what Mr. Adamson's up to. I understand there's some tryouts happening for the MLPB Chicago Aftershock. Any insight?
I know that he and Rennick are really excited about the 10-man ICPL season. And I know that he and Rennick and that team, which has had all sorts of folks in and out of it, are ready to take it to the folks at the ICPL Pro Division. But I know that team will look different as a result of Todd's acquisitions, if you will, his new interests. I imagine some of those players will be asked to step in and go play some ICPL as well. That tends to be the trend line there. I think Travis is no different. I imagine Diesel is not any different in that regard. Todd's influencing a lot of things in Florida paintball. Todd is our, he's the mentor. The way Ryan was a mentor to me in Oklahoma, Todd is the mentor for a lot of us Florida ballers, including, I know she just talked about Ohana and Tiki's. The Femme Fatale are rooted here. Tammy created the first and oldest, professional women's paintball team that is the Femme. They're still playing. They've got new players and new pickups. Todd's got fields being built and building management teams and bringing everybody together to try to build a really unique paintball superstructure that I personally think is, and he would probably get irritated for me saying this, but I think it's really akin to what goes on at Paintball Fit or some of these other bigger programs that have just figured out how to like bring all of the pieces together to make that paintball family, that paintball culture, something that, yeah, if there's a decision to be made or input to be had, someone's going to come to Todd and say, what do you think I should do here? I mean, I would never make a brash jump from a team like the Annihilators, since Todd still owns, I think, like the naming rights, and he's still like the guy they call when there's problems. We tend to all go check off with the Paintball Florida Godfather, if you will. So in terms of what he's doing at the pro level, I think it's going to be crazy. I hope he gives you guys a run for his money. I think he might.
The excitement around the conversation right now is the best part, right? Like, of course, for me, because I think I'm pretty pragmatic and I like to see things the way they are. I like to watch them shake out, if you will. Mike and I, at the end of the show, we're going to talk about the brackets, but it's always interesting. Like, I pick a team that I think is going to do well, and sometimes I'm right, but the reality is that's why, to use that old stupid adage, that's why we play the games, right? Like, the reality of the pro division today is it's really, really difficult. Mm-hmm. All the teams are good. Even the team that gets relegated this year, if they stayed together and decided to go to play semi-pro, would come right back up.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. A team that could potentially go 0-4, 5 events in a row, I believe, could still go down to semi-pro right now and come right back up. Especially now that you have Blast Camp and Paintball Fit that have moved out. The pro division is no joke. I mean, it's real, and it's everybody's good. There's not any scrub players on any teams. I mean, obviously there's the way the tiers are laid out. There's some teams that just play even at a higher level than it really, like the bottom 7-8 teams versus what everybody else is doing above. It's different. I mean, it's just different. So I would consider even in the pro division, there's a couple of levels, but I'm really excited for Todd. And more importantly, I'm excited for what Todd is doing because of what it's done for paintball over the last few weeks, right? It's created this really cool buzz that people are talking about, and to have such an iconic name returning. We talked about it. I don't remember who our guest was, but I was like, in my heart, I really want it to be this. Like, I really want that name to return. So for the sake of paintball, I hope that it does well enough to not have to go back down, to go away again. I hope he can build something that can have some longevity, and it's exciting. And it sounds like he surrounded himself with great people. So
I will say the one thing that, you can't count, the reason you can't count a Todd Adamson and a Tammy Adamson out is, one, because they're a duo. It's not just Todd. And sure. I think people forget that there's a redheaded accountability metric that is really powerful and strong and takes no what. And I think people forget that. The second thing I'll say is he has a unique ability to get people to follow him. And sure. That is not an easy thing to do. I think it's because, if you look at his resume, he's won for a long time. So it's easy to follow a winner. But he knows it. He knows he's had some ups and downs here in the WNXL, and he had some ups and downs in semi-pro. I think the difference there is that he's kind of nuked everything he originally built and rebuilt this superstructure where I think for the first time you're going to see maybe a more pragmatic Todd Adamson. I think you're going to see someone who's probably really laser beam focused on the outputs but also what goes into making the secret sauce versus talking about the secret sauce and just knowing that it works. He's being super intentional, and I don't think people give him enough credit sometimes for that. He's really a brilliant guy, and when he dials it in, he doesn't always articulate it well. His ability to communicate is sometimes a challenge, but his ability to think through and design the plan and then execute might need some of us to help him put it on paper. But boy, once it's on paper, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone has a doubt about whether or not the man can put it together. I think everybody is. It's mostly intrigue, right? Everybody's just very intrigued about what is this thing going to look like, right? I can go to the store though and buy all the best ingredients on planet Earth, and if I don't mix it together correctly, the outcome is not going to be great, right? Yeah, I could pull all the greatest players together. We may find some mild success, but it may not be exactly what I want it to be.
Right. You can get so far
No
on talent
argument.
alone, but eventually you've got to put the pieces together. And I think what you're saying, Ryan, is everyone's really interested in what is he cooking with, right? So what are the ingredients he's going to use? And that's what's everyone's really fascinated to know.
Yeah, it's a great, like I said, for us, on the show, like I think since the announcement, we've talked about it every time, and we'll continue. They had their tryout when the show comes out. The tryout will have just occurred, so we do have Todd Adamson coming on the show on I believe February 6th. Yeah. February 6th, he's coming on. So that show will release on February the 13th. I wanted to give him some time, right? I sent him a message like a couple of days after he had done the deal. And I said, hey, we want to have you on the show, but I want you to have some time. I want you to have your pieces kind of in place so that we can have really good conversations about what that's going to look like. So I'm really excited to get him on and kind of talk about what it is going to look like and what his plan is. And then every coach that comes on, we ask them like, so what is your expectation? What are your goals for the year? And then we write them down, because at some point mid-year, we're going to have these coaches back on and we're going to talk about, okay, you said this was your goal. Where are you at? Right? Where are you at? What's missing? What do you need? Or congratulations, you've done it, right? You've done it. So, well, Chris, thank you so much, man. We're really excited to have you and talk more about the ICPL as certainly as the events begin to occur. And you and I talked a little bit. You're going to be doing some live stuff while you're there. You'll be jumping on our social medias and going live with some of the players and captains after games occur. So that's going to be really fun. I don't think we talk enough about the ICPL. I think it gets kind of I don't want to say like the redheaded stepchild, but it kind of is, right? We don't talk enough about it. We need to talk more about it. The people like us, right, that get to be older, that can't play I guess we could, considering guys like Ryan Greenspan, but I'm not Ryan Greenspan. But I think I could play that format. And now I have money, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
When I left, when I kind of retired, it was a little tighter time. And I love the fact that now you have all of these older guys coming back into the game and they have wallet share, right? These are not guys that are going to every vendor booth saying, hey, can you give me free stuff? These are guys that are just like wandering around. Hey, you want a beer, right? You want a beer and let's talk about what's going on with your family. So I love that, right? That's what I think made paintball special in the beginning. We still kind of have that. It's just, it's a little bit different. So excited to bring more about the ICPL to the forefront for sure.
Well, I will go live. Jungle internet dependent from Playa del Carmen, February 2nd through the 4th at Playa Paintball Park with whichever pro teams are assembled to duke it out in arguably the most dangerous paintball field I've ever played on in my entire life. So I've seen guys break their collarbones at this field. I've seen guys get bit by bugs that you wouldn't think should exist on planet Earth. And so you got to have a bit of you gotta have some intestinal fortitude to play in the jungle in Mexico. So it may not be getting smashed by you guys, but it's got its own element of danger, and it's usually dependent on the ground beneath you. I will go live. Hopefully it's not live watching someone falling through into a cenote, but we'll go live with some of the really cool stuff that's happening on the field down there. And then again, I'll go live at the Invitational in Vegas.
Cenotes are awesome, by the way. If you did fall into one, they're really cool to hang out in. They're so cool.
As long as there's actually water down there.
Right. Yeah,
right? Because the 40-foot fall with paintball gear,
might not be good.
You know, let's just say.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. See you.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure, Chris.
Yeah, that was fun.
He's going to fit in just fine, I think.
Absolutely.
What a great person.
May have to cut that piece out about the danger of the field.
Yeah, I was a little worried about when he did the intestinal fortitude. I'm like, I see what you did there.
I was going to ask, like, did you do that on purpose? Did you do that because it's Mexico?
I wasn't going to draw attention to it right away, but I couldn't help myself. So, it was well done. Well done.
Well, so since Travis couldn't join us because of travel issues, you and I we've had so many people messaging on social media to talk that they want us to talk more about, like, what does the off season look like? You know, what do you do to prepare kind of for your first practices? And luckily, you and I had our first practice together.
That's right.
So I do want to say too, before we kind of jump into some of this content, it's really important when you're going to schedule a practice, especially in the off season or your first practice going into the season, to schedule that with a team that you have a really good relationship with and that has a coach that's like you. Because you and I this weekend, there were several times where we were like, hey, we need a minute, right? We're going to talk. And so it's important to have another coach who's like-minded.
And the reason for that, right, is people who travel, or when teams get together like we do, it's good to understand that, hey, we're both there to improve our teams. And having that understanding that, hey, give us a moment, we're working on something, and maybe creating that freedom. And an example, something we'll probably talk about a little bit later, is how I pulled my team off the field and I said, look, I know you've got to get some work done. So if you want to start doing some of this on your own, give me 2 points. Or, you know, having, like you said, that like-minded coach who understands what it's like guiding the ship and not getting upset, right? That, man, we came over here, man, you're wasting our time, or this, that, and the other. And I'm not saying there are teams that do that. There are, but, you know, I think having an understanding and being on the same page that, hey, I'm here to improve my team, you're here to improve your team. Let's use our assets together to reach that end.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the neat things too for you and I is we're coming at this from a couple of different perspectives, because you've been with your group now for a little while, me coming in with a brand new group. So our processes and what we were expecting and needing from each one of these drills was a little bit different. Yeah. Some very similar, but some different, right? As I'm still sort of getting to know my guys. I kind of mentioned this on one of our previous shows. I had gone through every match that AC Diesel had played in 2023 and evaluated each one of their games. When I say games, I'm talking about each point inside the match, and statted it all out with, you know, how many guys they shot off the break, how many guys they lost off the break, did mid-game, were they up or down bodies, meaning if they started down bodies, were they now at mid-game up bodies, and then did they win or lose the point? What was the time? And then did anybody get penalties on either team, and who was it? So I had all of this data that I kind of built what my expectations were for the practice and what I wanted out of each one of these drills. And it was interesting because you had sent me this itinerary and I had begun to make one, and it was very similar. It was really similar. Yeah, because I was like, well, I want to start my first practice with how I want to prepare for the tournament, right? So because I want them to get into the groove of what my preparation looks like. And then when you sent me this and I opened it, I was like, this is really close to what I wanted to do. So.
Well, it's funny because like you were coming into that approach from you're wanting to look at it for preparing for that first event, et cetera. And I was looking at it as a reset, right? We had just had that, not to live in the past, but we just had a pretty bad ending to our season. And I wanted to start it off right? I wanted to get right into, like you said, I wanted to get right into that grind again. I think goal setting is the most important aspect of all improvement, right? I think you have to develop a plan, and goal setting and planning is the key to really any achievement that you want to see. And so I think you and I are very like-minded in that fact that we're going to goal set, we're going to plan, we're going to prepare. Now, granted, it doesn't always, stay together upon impact, but a lot of times, and we saw that a little bit, at our practice, there were certain things we wanted to do. But then we saw, hey, no, we need to stick on this one a little bit longer. Time management, by the way, it's not just something that's important in game, coaches, all you coaches out there, listen, time management, clock management's not just important in the match. It's just as important off the field, and understanding how you use that time between the nets and the time outside of the nets at a practice is incredibly important, and having an understanding of how you want to leverage that time.
Yeah. And I thought we stayed, other than kind of moving away from that 1 3-on-3 on the D side, we stayed pretty much on track the entire time.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it was pretty great.
It was.
I know my group got a ton out of it, and I learned quite a bit about them, and I think they learned quite a bit about me. So I'm going to bring the itinerary in real quick, and you can kind of break down sort of what your thoughts kind of were for each one, and then I'll sort of do the same.
And what you'll notice is you'll actually notice there's times, right? There's actually times associated with a lot of what's happening on this itinerary. Now, look, this is a very high level basic itinerary that you want to stick to that can create, and you'll even notice an asterisk there at the top that says, all of this is subject to, change. But the idea is we want to get there early. We want to get there. We want everyone on the same page. So when you set a time to get there, everybody gets there. Make sure everybody's there and ready to go. Matter of fact, we even had a conversation about this, Ryan. Remember, it's not so much about what time the player arrives as much as there's a time I want you on that field. And as long as you meet that, like some guys get there and they need half an hour to get ready. Some guys get there and they roll up in their gear and they're ready to go in 5 minutes. So that's kind of important. So you'll notice here on the itinerary from 7:30 a.m. to 8:15 a.m. is a field walk. Now, we had taken, because of weather and a lot of different situations, we had taken the World Cup layout and adapted it a little bit. I wanted to adapt it a little bit simply because my team played so poorly on it. And I wanted to use that as a learning tool. So we spend that time to do a field walk. Now, it's similar enough to the original layout that it's not too much, but it did change a lot of shots and opportunities. So we would get together and walk that field as a team. It's something that's imperative. Everyone has to understand, because what you're doing in that process is your codes should still be standard, but now you're using this opportunity to recognize the change in shots, what our zone calls should be, and how we should start, what certain key bunkers have certain shots, whether they're what I would call an Alamo bunker, and I won't go into too much detail, but an attack bunker, a defense bunker, right? A pivot bunker, these types of bunkers that we can use in conjunction with our attack or our defense, right? So we got to walk that field and have your codes ready to go. Anything you want to add to that regarding the field walk, Ryan?
No, that's great.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Obviously, the next setup, 15 to 20 minutes. Every team should have a warm-up routine. And the purpose of this is to avoid injury. And I don't think people understand that. Now, granted, a lot of people will use this as a way of bringing people together, doing something as a team. The Hurricanes try to do everything as a team. We warm up as a team. We try to travel as a team. We eat as a team. We stay as a team, all these things. But really that warm up is to get everybody stretched up, have a very specific warm-up routine where everyone gets stretched out well so we can avoid injuries, especially when it's as cold as it was for us Louisiana people at this practice. So you got to stretch to avoid injury. So I always put time in there. Our next thing here, it's about 20 minutes. That's time because the last thing you want to do is sit there and go play a point and then have to go pod up. So you want to have lots of pods, lots of paint ready to go. You get your paint and you pod up several boxes full of pods. We probably potted up around 70 to 80 pods ready to go. And we'd have them behind the box. So in between points, it wasn't so much having to go do this, that, and the other. You just dropped your pods, got them out of the way, and you went to town and got ready to go. This is about efficiency. Practices need to be efficient. So you need to plan for things like this. Take the time to have this ready to go. Now, you've done the field walk. You've warmed up. You've prepped. You've got your paint ready to go. Your gears, everybody's chronoed. Everyone's ready to go. Now it's time to get into the actual practice. And Ryan, I'll let you take it from here, but I did want to say this. I had one of my big goals, and we talked about goal setting. One of my big goals heading into this weekend, especially going up against the big guns of AC Diesel and the experience of AC Diesel and the aggressiveness of AC Diesel and the craftiness of AC Diesel, was I wanted to make sure that my guys were communicating. If anything, I didn't care if we didn't win a single point all weekend. I don't care if we didn't win a gunfight. I wanted to make sure my guys were communicating efficiently. That was my goal for Saturday. I wanted to make sure that there was a specific certain actions that took place every time that buzzer went off. First thing that should happen, everyone understands, knows the play, what the emphasis is our zone calls. Our zone calls come first, right? Because those zone calls that's a tremendous amount of information that gives us a very specific amount of information that we can now build upon. So that's what I was emphasizing very much. So that first breakout that first drill that we do is breakout drills. We break out for 15, 20 seconds, establish zone calls. As we went through the hour, we extend that 15, 20 seconds to 25 to 30, 35 to 45, etc. So those zone calls, now we were building upon each communication. So there's our zone calls. Okay, there's our zone calls. Here's where the bodies are. This is what they're doing. Here's where the push needs to be. So as we keep moving through that extended period of time, the play is now developing. Did we lose bodies on the break? Okay. That changes jobs. So did we shoot bodies on the breaks? Okay. That changes things, changes the dynamic, right? So that's what we tried to do as we extend the 15 to 20s zone calls, the 20 of it. Now it's like, okay, let's establish who's where, what they're doing, and why we're doing it. Then as it extends a little bit further, okay, this is where the push needs to be. This is where the hole is. This is the attack. This is the data we need, right? This is data we don't have. And you've heard me say it 100 times, everybody. The most important question in paintball is why. So I'll shut up about that right now and let you take it from there, Ryan.
No, because everything you're saying is really similar to what I was doing, but with the exception of in this first part. Mm-hmm. I've kind of mentioned this in previous shows. AC Diesel wasn't very good off the break last year. They were negative bodies, and I'll get into that when I get into my goals sheet here in just a second. And but nonetheless, we introduced a new code, new call that basically off the break negates having to yell a zone call. So we introduced this one-word thing, and I'm gonna show zones. We'll talk about zones when we show the field layout, so the audience has a better understanding of what we're talking about. But basically, a zone would be like on the World Cup layout. Outside of each one of the cans is probably some sort of zone. And so if you yell whatever your zone code is, if nobody's outside of that can, you'd yell that zone code. Mm-hmm. And so my first goal with the first drill that we did with breakout was to introduce this new call and get them to understand how to use it. And then also to do the equation really quickly. And when I talk about the equation, what I mean is how many guns are on each side, not how many bodies, how many guns are on each side. So you may have 3 guys break out one direction, but 2 of those guns could be pointed the other direction. So the equation means which way are the guns pointing, right? So if I have 3 guys who've broken out one side, but 2 guns are on the other side of the field, that really means on that side there's only 1, right? So if we have an opportunity to bully that guy and potentially get a guy outside or get a guy moved or bully him, we want to be able to do that. And I wanted them to be able to do that in the first 15 seconds. Now the reality is we didn't have a lot of success in the first part of that, getting it all right in the first 15 seconds. Now keep in mind too, Cody Mikowski, this was his first time with the group. We had 4 guys trying out. It was it took them a little bit to get their wheels going in the first part of the drill, but my goal didn't waver because of that. My expectation was, if you want to play on this team and you're trying out, you better get this quickly. Right. So let's move on to
expectations. That's very important.
For sure. Right. And so let's move on to the next one. So the next drill we did was a 3-on-3 on the snake side, where we put guys in positions. We established, hey, you can go to one of these 3 of these 4 spots, right? And then we put a time limit on it and said, okay, you have this amount of time to be able to win, right? Shoot the other guys out. At the end, if you don't, we're just going to call it and it's over.
Right.
I think we did that drill for like an hour, right? And what I was trying to get from that was really to see who my 3-man, what was my 3-man operation going to look like on the snake side this year?
Right.
Who were those guys who were going to be able to work together and communicate about what was happening right in front of them? And the reason I like the 3-on-3 on that one side of the field is it does simplify things. They're not having to check off on a guy in the middle of the field. It makes it where if you're elite at this, this should be a no-brainer drill, right?
Bingo.
Should be, right?
Yeah.
And I do think you and I both, after about 45 minutes of doing that drill, we're like, hey, they're too good.
Right.
They're all too good.
Exactly. And this is actually where I think there was a great differential between our 2 approaches. You were looking very specifically for, and me too. I pretty much understand that about my team. What I was looking for specifically was creating that innate aggression again, that processing speed that recognizes that when this happens, boom, this is what needs to happen, right? So showing that, giving them that time frame. But again, my major emphasis was the communication of knowing, hey, this just happened. This has to happen now. So that processing speed, because I believe that processing speed ultimately is derived from not just your communication, but that innate gut feeling that we also discussed this past weekend, not just from the coach's perspective, but from the player's perspective. And I do want to add one more quick thing to our previous drill when we were doing the breakouts. The other thing we're obviously working laning, right? So not only working on your comms, but you're certainly getting those reps on laning the opponent, understanding the zones, understanding which one is a higher probability. So I wanted to get that out there. So it's kind of a multi-dimensional drill. This one, to your point, I think is also a multi-dimensional drill, but it's more of, hey, show me what you got. Who are my killers, right? Who are my guys who can make those reads, who can make those and can just build off that type of chaos quickly.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see how quickly they picked it up, right? To just launch through that seam on the kind of on the interior side of that big brick we'll show in a second. It was also pleasant, right? It was nice to see how quickly they picked it up. So
absolutely.
So kind of like with the asterisks up here that Mike mentioned in the beginning, we ended up getting rid of this because of the way the D side was. So we moved on, and we ended up spending more time here, which was great because we got a ton from that. And I think we ended up getting to 30 seconds maybe on the first day. I don't know that we went all the way to 45.
We didn't go all the way to 45. Occasionally we'd break the 30, and that's just because I saw something that I would let it go for an extra 2-3 seconds to see how fast the processing speed would happen if they'd pick up on it, And so occasionally we'd go to 35, but we never really broke 30 much on the first day.
So I think we spent about an hour and a half doing that.
We did.
Yeah. And then we did break for lunch, and then we went into points. So let's talk about what that was, right? Because
Right.
That was really just getting them going, right? Getting back into 5-on-5, right? Get 5 guys on the box, get out there, get your bodies going, because really it was about the next part.
It was. Remember how I believe I came up to you and I said, let's let the dogs eat.
Yeah.
And so it was like, we keep pulling them in, we keep pulling him, we keep pulling them in. Let's let them go. And let's, no specifics here. Obviously, we want to see who's working together, well, where the emphasis. I was doing that a lot. And it's like, hey, let's really try and emphasize this. Let's leverage this point here and try and push here. If it doesn't work, let's shift the role here. We're also, once again, working on those, that communication. The emphasis for us was communication. I kept telling them, I said, I promise you, if your comms are right and they're up to speed, we'll win more than we lose. And for me, and here's, I'm going to get a little philosophical on you, I have a tendency to do this. The biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. Right.
Sure.
And it's to me. All right. So Coach Saban, right, just announced his, the greatest, collegiate coach of all time. Now he's actually won more than the Bear. So Coach Saban would preach to his players and tell them not to focus on winning. Now, but let me clarify. Instead, he would really, have them focus on what they were doing at that moment, to be the best you absolutely could be in that moment. And from whether it was making the sandwich, being in the classroom, lifting weights, whatever, focusing on competing at the highest level at that moment. And I think that's where I got into at this point. It was, for me, it was a lot about, let's really focus on this point. I don't care about what happened on the last point, unless it was a teachable moment. And I don't care what's going to happen next point. I want you to really focus on what's happening right here. Let's take what we can from this moment and learn the most we can from this moment. And I think that's where I think we saw a real good, both teams really took it. I mean, I think we actually played points a little bit longer than we had planned as well.
No, we actually less.
You know what it was? That's right. Because we were getting such good. I mean, there were some good points. I mean, it was back and forth, man. It was back and forth. You guys were making such great reads and working together. My guys would occasionally have these great reads and work together, but it was good. We let the guys hunt. They felt pretty good about it. And they knocked some rust off, I think, at that point. And I think this was around the time that I started getting the kind of performance out of my guys that I really wanted to get.
It was really right in that time period that I think I looked over and was like, that was really good, coach. Because I heard every single, a guy said something, picked something up, passed it to the next guy, and you could see the guns go whoop, 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 and move to whatever the information was. And I was like, coach, that was good. That was really good.
Well, thank you. It was great to see them finally get back into that flow that is normally known as hurricane discipline. So,
and they looked like the Hurricanes. Yeah. So it was great. And so then we jumped into these mini matches.
Yes.
Let's talk about mini match. Why is a mini match important?
Right. To me, mini matches are important because you'll notice it says 6 minutes. They can be 5 minutes. It doesn't matter. The point of a mini match is to create scenarios that you will see on that layout in that type of time frame. So like a mini match, literally we would start saying that, okay, the Canes are up by 1 with 6 minutes left on the clock. And that's how you start the mini match. And then we would do a mini match like that for 6 minutes. Like if that next point took AC beats us in 2 minutes, well, then there was 4 minutes left on the clock and it was 1-1. So now what are you going to do? So, then that next point might take a minute and a half. Okay, there's 2.5 minutes left and it's 2-1. What's going to happen? So you're creating these scenarios, right? You're creating these, whether there's, what's the word I'm looking for? You need to be either aggressive, defensive, or maybe you're aggressive while being defensive. You create concepts and views that these teams are going to see at these events on that type of layout. So I think I like doing that situation. And I believe we started up the first one, 1-0 for the first 6-minute drill. Then you guys started up the second one, 1-0. And it was great. It was great to see that back and forth. And what's great about these mini matches as well, and something, coaches, I want you to, is it requires clock management, because Ryan and I would concede the point, and we'd stop the clock and call for the clock, and we'd have to work within those confines. I think it's clock management. It's real life experience right there. It's real time experience. And it really puts the pressure and creates that kind of must need it, efficiencies in the pit, right? A play calling, personnel calling, right? So it creates that real life experience.
Yeah. So for me, it's about not practicing just to play the very first point of the match. It creates elements of a match where you have to be in it and you have to understand what's going on. And then also, like, I use this as an opportunity to go to my players and say, okay, there's this much time left. At what point in the time do you need to have a plan? If the margin is 1 and we're up 1, at what point do you have to make the decision about whether or not you can hold, or maybe you can go win the point and get 2, right? And then if we're down 1, it's at what point do you have to make the decision about you can only get 1 and you're going to play for overtime, or you can possibly get 2, right? At what point? So if there's 3 minutes left and you have 1.5 minutes per point, right? Let's say if it gets to a minute, what does the body count have to look like? And what is the positioning that they're in and the positioning we're in? What does that look like? And then at what point do you have to know, can we go get this point and play for overtime, or can we get 2? And I'd make them respond, right? I wouldn't give them the answer. I'd have them tell me, hey, coach, we need to know at this time if we're going to be able to get 2. We need to know at this time if we're going to be able to get to 1 and go to overtime. So for me, it was about getting them to understand how what my philosophy is. In fact, you were talking about conceding. I conceded, the point you guys won and we were up 1. And one of the guys walked over and said, hey, why'd you concede? We were up 1. I said, well, because there's 2.5 minutes left. You guys are in a 2-on-2. They're really smart. So if the guy goes down and wins the point, do you want us to have an opportunity? I think maybe we were tied. I don't remember exactly what the scenario was, but I was like, I want enough. No, we were up 1.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to have enough time left to be able to go win another point, right? I don't want to get it all the way down to the end and go to overtime if I don't have to against the Hurricanes. We did have an overtime match. We went to overtime that match, right? Because that was the point that we had an opportunity to win it. And unfortunately, time ran out as the young man was running down to touch the buzzer. And he was so hurt over that. Like, he just really bugged him. He mentioned it to me a couple of times, but the reality was it was okay. There's no clock he can look at, he's just kind of going by feel. But nonetheless, that really didn't matter to me as much as I wanted them to understand, hey, if we play a damage or we play you guys, I don't necessarily want that game to go to overtime. Right? Like, I know that if I can break out 5-on-5 and shoot 2 of you off the break, we got a really good opportunity to win a point in 45 seconds. Whereas if we're going into an overtime point, you're probably going to play short and it's going to be tough. And you're going to put your guys, just like I would try to do. I'm going to put 5 guys into 5 spots. I know we can make it. And I'm going to try to shoot 1 or 2 guys off the break. Right.
That's exactly right.
And so I didn't want to go to overtime. So, which, we ended up going to overtime anyway. But nonetheless, for me, I use this as a way to really get into my players' heads a little bit about time, right? At what point, if you're looking up at the clock, what does that clock need to say for your plan to have either already taken place, or you better have one, right? What is that plan? And then what does that need to look like in order for us to either go win the point or play for overtime?
That's absolutely right. What do I need to do to create that hole? At what point do I need to do it? And see, you were emphasizing that time. What I love about these mini matches is it's pressure testing for the entire organization, right? Yep. I'm getting a workout, right? My guys are getting a workout. We're under that pressure. My pit crew is getting a workout, right? So, I mean, it really is that kind of pressure testing that I really think makes really prepares teams specifically on a layout. Right. I think the more I would, matter of fact, we got into a couple more of those, and it was such a great learning experience for all of us. That young man that you talk about, I promise you, he'll never make that mistake again.
No, and he was really good, right?
Yeah.
That's the other side of it, is he played really well all weekend. Honestly, he's fantastic gun skills. Name's Nate Roberts. He's from Wisconsin. Great player, really good kid too. So
he was.
Yeah.
All right. There's a lot of guys out there. So, and then, well, now here's the thing. This is a bit of a misnomer. This says individual drills for those interested. At this point, we'd have been banging for about 6 hours, right?
No, I changed it. It says 1v1 call outs and gambling.
Okay. Perfect. Because I think I also changed it on mine, but I don't think I ever sent it to you. I did change it to the one that I sent to everybody. Now, what it says here is, at this point, you don't want to grind gears, right? When it's that cold, you're shooting 1 star, you're diving into the snake, you're pushing it hard. You don't want to get it to the point where now we're just playing points, we're just doing things just to do them. Right. We don't want to grind gears. At one point you want to sit there and okay, let's take a moment. Let's work some snapping, or let's work some. That's kind of what we would do. But Ryan and I decided we wanted to make it a little bit of fun. One, the Hurricanes are pretty fun guys. And two, your guys, are just such great personalities, and you're getting to know them. This was a fun way to bring the two teams together and just have a good time with paintball in general, I think, and see where people stood. And it also is a little bit of a psychological maneuver by us coaches. And I'll let you get into that if you want, Ryan.
Well, I think we talked about this on the show with Shane Pastana.
Right.
So these 1v1 call outs. So first of all, my guys got in really late Friday. In fact, I didn't get to the hotel until 1:30 in the morning. And I'm a guy who goes to bed at 8:30 at night. So that was a real challenge for me. So I knew that if we wanted to do something as a team, some sort of team building, we would need to do it at the field. Because by the time we ate dinner, it was over. The guys were going to be wrecked. So you and I had talked a little bit about these call outs with Shane. And I was like, okay, well, maybe we can figure out a way with these call outs to make it fun. And so you and I kind of visited about doing getting some fake money and allowing everybody on the sidelines and the guys playing to gamble.
Right.
And so we bought these, this little paper money, and then, everybody could make wagers, and they could be on anything. And there was also sideline coaching and taunting and whatever you wanted to do. And man, it ended up being a tremendous amount of fun. The gambling was, the things that guys were gambling on was pretty silly too, but, Clint Johnson actually ended up winning the money. So
that's right.
He was pretty geeked up about it, but it was also cool to see some of your Bulls and my Bulls, like Cody Mikowski and Drew Bell played one another. Stu played Kyle Spica. Stu ended up playing several. He played a bunch. And so Clint Johnson played quite a bit. Renee played quite a bit. It was a lot of fun. I think the guys really enjoyed it. And so really what that was for was two things. One, it was a hang, right? It was just let's hang out. Let's, kind of get to know each other, be friends. And then the second part of that, which I think is what you were alluding to, is we wanted to see our younger players competing with the top guys, right? Going after the big dogs, right? And that happened a couple of times. A few of my even the guys trying out, a few of them picked on some of the older guys and said, "Hey, I want him." And they lost. They lost, except one. I think Logan ended up beating Mark one time, and I think that was it. So, but nonetheless, it was just a ton of fun.
They still called them out, though, right? That's what you're looking for. You're looking for that moxie. Right.
Yeah, the call out, right?
Right.
So, okay, let's move into Sunday. I think we can skip down to the closing drills.
Right. We start the day again with those breakout comms. Once again, establishing communication and getting the blood pumping a little bit. But now something that I see, especially in the divisionals, right, is teams that don't always know how to close. And so why not, instead of, running to that situation by running points, why not create it? So the idea is, okay, we just shot 2 of you on the break. Chances are your bodies are here, here, and here, because these are high probability safe bunkers. We probably killed these 2 guys, what have you. Here's where my 5 guys were, whether it be pocket or what have you. You have, remember, so what we'll do then is we'll set a bar, because we don't necessarily know what that's going to look like on that layout. So we set a bar and we say, let's say 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes to close this 5-on-3 out, right? And you'll do that a couple of times back to back, right? And then what you do is if you kind of do an average and you kind of figure it out, how long it's going to take it. So now you're going to back that up a little bit. From 2 minutes, now we've gone to a minute 30. That sounds about right. Yeah, minute 30 to close. And then boom, you do that a couple of times. And finally, you're like, everyone knows about the 60-second point. So how are you going to close in a 60 seconds? What has to happen? What has to happen in those 60 seconds, based off those bodies being where they are, what has to happen for you to be able to hit that buzzer within 60 seconds? And that's so important in understanding and getting your team to recognize those opportunities. And it also creates, as a coach, it creates an opportunity for you to recognize your team's creativity. Let's say, hey, these things are what ends up happening, but but now one of those, the 3 just dinked out one of your 5. Things have changed. So let's see how creative and how you adapt to still reach the goal. So I think that's what's really important with the closing drills.
Yeah. And basically what we were doing throughout the weekend is we broke the game down in every piece, right? We took the start, we have the close kind of more at the end. We didn't get into the island drill, so we can skip it, but we took all of these different elements and we basically broke the game down from start to finish, right?
And that's such a great point. It's such a great point.
To the time we went, no, you're good. Till the time we went, kind of right back into finishing it out, playing a few points. And it was interesting. We'll kind of skip down to that since we didn't do the island drill. But in this last part, what I did, I went into this and I was like, okay, now I'm not going to coach. I'm going to let my guys do whatever they want. And I kind of went up in the tower and I just listened. And so what I was listening for is, if the guys if they lose a couple of points in a row, what happens?
Right.
What are the tendencies that they're going to have when they come into the pit? If things don't go well for 2 events, what am I going to hear? Right. And it emerged very quickly. It was like, hey, let's get wide. I was like, oh no, I heard it 2 different times. Let's get wide. And I finally did go down and I was like, hey, you guys, I've heard it now a couple of times. I just want you guys to know, like, that's not correct. Like, if you're getting shot here, that you don't need to go out. You need to just go here and shoot back at them. Right. And so then they started doing it, and then it shortened it up again, and it was smart. Right. But for me, it was just, I want to know when we get into an event and things aren't going well, what am I going to hear? What are the things the players are going to come in and say, hey, coach, we need to, right? I think we need to, right? Which always, the I think thing always drives me a little bit nuts. But having players like you and I do, who are really intelligent and really high level thinkers about paintball, you do want to hear those things, right? But you and I both know that, like, when we look at the data, it says something completely different, right?
Right.
And going through those mini matches, I tracked everything and I saw how we were winning. I saw where we were winning from, and I was hoping, they would kind of pick up on that. And they did some, but when things didn't go, they lost 2 points at one point, 2 points in a row. And I start hearing it, like, we need to go here. We got to push a guy out here. And we got to push a guy out here. And, they break out, both those guys get shot. And that's when I came down. I was like, hey, you don't have to do that. That's not the way you're going to do it. So,
but again, excellent point, because we started with the breakout, right? And we finished with the closing. But what we didn't mention really, and we did the mini matches, which created some of those scenarios, but there were a lot of instances that we didn't discuss where I would sit there and say, hey, Ryan, give me a moment. I've got to talk to my guys. And that's where I'm talking about that mid game. Hey guys, this is where it broke down. Or, hey guys, this is where it went really well. Or, hey guys, this comm was really good. What were you thinking when you made this shift here? And why did you not call this job over here? So we start having those conversations about the mid game. So in a way, we really are doing from start to finish through this type of process.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Got to have those conversations. And it's interesting that you talk about, hey, we've got to key up on this. We got to do that. And I'm like, I like the way you're thinking, right? I like the fact that you want to key up on this, or you want to do that, but that's not where we're losing. That's not the issue, right? To your point, sometimes you have to recognize that, guys, you're focusing on this one aspect that went wrong. There was actually 3 things that went wrong, and it started back here on the breakout. So there's a lot of miscoms, right? Wrong body counts, wrong bunker call, wrong code call, right? Or a lot of that data, that's where it all comes down. And I thought it was really fascinating to see. You were sitting there wanting to see it got to the point similar to you. It got to the point at the end of the day where I just started calling my 1s, 2s, and 3s. And then I would let them do what they wanted to do on the box. And it's pretty interesting to see that dynamic again.
Yeah. And like I said, I was just trying to get them to a place where I wanted them to be really uncomfortable, right? Like I wanted them to get uncomfortable so I could see, like, hey, when tension gets high, what is the reaction going to be? What is that going to look like? And it was pretty interesting. It didn't take long, right? Yeah. It didn't take long. So
I would say your guys passed. I'd say they passed well.
They passed for sure. No, there is absolutely, I went into this thing totally open-minded, just really wanted to get to know them and have an experience. And it was more than I could have asked for. I mean, they're really an amazing group of young men. I mean, my experience, the coaching, and I've been doing this a really long time. Yeah. And it was, this was maybe the most fun I've had coaching, especially a new team in the first practice ever. I mean, you've been into a lot of practices with me. How many times did I scream?
I want to clarify. I think you only used, you didn't scream at all. I would say you used a dad voice once. Dad voice once. Yeah. Right. And it was, I think it was during that one point we just talked about where the young man, had that issue. Something that I emphasized heading into this, one thing and I know every coach does this. And if you're a divisional coach, start doing this, get comfortable enough with your players and know them well enough that you do this. And that is at the end of every year, manage expectations, have a phone call, an individual phone call or a coffee or whatever, but meet with each player individually. Talk with them about what you thought went well for them this season, what could be better, what you want them to work on in the offseason, what you want them to work on and focus on at the first practice. Manage expectations. And I had such great conversations heading into this practice with certain people and all my players, but there were some that there was actually a couple of breakthroughs. After 3-4 years, you would think that we had, but there was a couple of things that were just kind of little itty bitty things. And we had a breakthrough in communication and it was amazing. Now, the first day I was missing 2 important players. And then the third day I was missing 3 important players. But what I really loved was the fact that how everyone there was in the moment, 110%. And I can't thank you enough because you guys were so cool, and so patient with us all weekend. And, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's really, again, like I could not have asked for a better way to start the season, so it was nice.
Yeah.
So I wanted to show my goals, but we don't really have time for that. So I'm going to pull up the field layout we kind of used. And I've got my codes on here. We've had a lot of people asking about codes and how we name things. And then I'll kind of let you talk about zones. Okay. But I do want to say, like, in my goals, one of the things, like, I have my goals for the group. And then I have my goals for here. I want to pull it back up.
Yeah. And I think we just kind of touched on that, right? I have the goals for the individual, and then we have the goals for the team. And
so I have like a little bit of information about last year to provide them some perspective on what we're doing in that practice and why we're focusing on the things that we're focusing on, and how that's going to bring us success. And then I talked a little bit about what our focus is going to be at the first event, which included like mindset, accountability, some communication things, some discipline things, and then what my expectation of perfect is, which I've talked about it here on the show. You know, be as perfect as you can be in the group. And then there's goals for me. These are my goals for me that I need you guys to hold me accountable to, right? This is what I'm telling you. My goals for me are, and I'm going to send them all to everybody and let them know, like, hey, these are the goals for me. I want you to hold me to these. I'm accountable too, right? So I'm just piggybacking on what you said. You know, we have to be held accountable, and we have to be held to a standard. And it's important that the guys know that they can do that. So
Absolutely.
So here's the layout we played. It modified version of the World Cup layout. You'll notice a few different things in here. You know, there's not too many wins in here. We've got a small stake structure, and then we ended up putting that mini win in the back instead of the little cake, which, by the way, made the field so much more fun, in my opinion.
It did.
It was so much more fun. And then we had this kind of brick in here instead of having it over here in this chaos. The field was super fun. There ended up being this massive gap over here, which made it a little bit tough to get up into there. But nonetheless, so these bunker codes you guys will see, these bunker codes, and you'll notice I have them all the way across, even onto our side of the field.
Right.
And that's based on expectation of people being there. Right. So a lot of times, you know, you guys want to stop, young coaches, you guys want to stop naming things at the 50-yard line. Well, then what happens when they're on your side of the field? So I have names for these things that are on our side of the field, again, that I anticipated players playing. And I'm really glad I named them, because it did occur a few times.
Well, both teams, I think both teams saw that coming. And so, you know, it was interesting to see how often both teams had players on the other side relatively quickly.
Yeah. It was, it's fun. So let's talk about zones.
Okay.
So where do yours start?
Well, let's just use the snake side as an example, right?
Okay.
So where you called the God, right? If we don't have anything past God, right? So they're not past what you have labeled as, I can't read that well, but it's that can right there.
Money.
Yeah, it's money. Well, that's what we call it. That's funny. Funny money. We would have a code for this. There's no one past here, but that doesn't, coaches, understand something. That doesn't mean that you're free and clear. What that means is there is no one in these bodies. They're not wider than here. And if you don't know where all the bodies are, you can assume there's some certain assumptions that you need to make at this point. Now, what we do different for codes is not all of our codes are linear, right? From money to money. Some of our codes might be from what you're calling the cobra to the God, right? So it's more angular. And so we have a multitude of codes that'll basically go like this to this to this. So it's basically creating, if we know that we've got two codes over here, once we hear these two codes, we know that it's okay, it's a pocket. So here comes a code for that, saying they're all focused here. Now, once you understand where those bodies are confined to, and maybe confined is not the right word, it's going to create a roadmap to what needs to happen. Now, just because they are playing the pocket, or they might be wide on one side or the other, understand where those guns are. We have a code for when a particular player is shooting a particular way, right? So, hey, the money is blank. That tells me that the money's inside. He's shooting the cross, what have you. Meaning, hey, there's only one or two guns at that point that can now protect the snake side aggression. So my player who's in position needs to check those two off. If he can't, also understand that it might be a bait, right? We like to bait people into turning a gun off a particular way because we've set a trap. In this field, was full of setting traps.
Yeah,
I don't know if
definitely.
I've gone too naively or too broadly into the zone calls, but understanding, having a zone call, determining where people are not is just as important as knowing where people are.
I mean, just to make it basic for young coaches, guys and gals out there, you're probably going to have zones more like this.
Right.
You're probably going to have 5 codes, just to keep it simple, where it's, there's nobody down the snake side, meaning the wire area. There's no one outside the Dorito one, meaning the wire area. Then you'll have another one. There's no one outside the cans. Then you'll have another one. There's no one at all on this entire side of the field. Same
And vice
on the
versa.
other side. Yeah. Right. Same on the other side. And then so on and so forth. It can be as complicated as you would like it to be. Mike mentioned, somebody who may be through the middle of the field, like through these types of zones, and having a code for that. Really important, right?
Yes.
In order for you to be able to say one word to tell your teammates that to help them put the equation together.
Right.
So again, if 3 guys break to the snake side, but this guy's gun is heads up, this guy's gun is inside, this guy's gun is inside. Are there really 3 guns over here?
Bingo.
Are there really 3 guns?
There it is, right? And by the way, I want to take this opportunity to tell you, younger coaches and the divisional coaches, your codes must be words that carry. Don't make them complicated. Don't make them multiple quadruple syllables, but make sure they're words that carry and can't be confused. I see this a lot, right? A lot of people use the word viper, right? And viper, but they'll also have a code for sniper
or tiger
or tiger, right? Yeah. Like, and it's too many times someone will say, well, you said viper. No, I didn't. I said tiger. So it's got to be words that are differential enough, that make sense, easy to remember, short syllables, and carry well. So make sure your code book is well thought out. Don't just throw it out there and say, oh, this is a good code. This is a good code. Everyone learn these codes. Make sure they're well thought out and they make sense.
Yeah, so I'm talking about the equation. So I'm just giving an example here. So like, what's the equation here? Well, it's 3 Dorito way, 2 snake way, right? And you have 3 on the Dorito side and you have 2 on the snake side. So the equation, if I broke 2 guys out on the snake side and I broke 3 guys out on the Dorito side, we're even. We're even, right? Yep. But if my guy was here, and I broke a guy in the corner, our equation is not correct, right? Because I would have the opportunity for my 3 guys on the snake side to bully their 2 guys on the snake side.
There it is.
Right. So when I'm talking about the equation and where guns are facing, this is what I was talking about earlier.
And that's such a great term, the equation, right? I use the term roadmap, right? So I'm going to start using equation. It makes more sense to me now that you've put it this way, because it's like, okay, look, they gave us this route. They get, this is the road that we need to take because this is what they gave us. Right. It was, but that's a great way of putting it. Understanding the equation. I love that. That's fantastic.
Well, yeah,
This was a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, right. It was. The layout ended up being interesting. The changes that were made from the World Cup layout. It was a lot of fun, and it was simple enough that the guys had some experience with it, so it wasn't terribly complicated. Which the field walk could have taken an hour if it would have been, kind of a brand new thing. It would have taken us a while. So
absolutely,
it was nice that it was similar, right? That little Xbox or the little box that you put there behind the big wedge made it play a little bit differently and gave a really nice launching point. Where that
a great launching point. Also gave you an opportunity. You'd have to concede some bunkers, but you could certainly shut certain things down, right? And by the way, that's something else. I made sure that Ryan had this layout.
Yeah,
right?
he gave it to me
Before he
like
got there.
it was like
Right.
10 minutes, but it's fine.
Yeah. So
It was like 10 minutes. No, I'm kidding.
no, I did. I sent it to you like on a Tuesday before.
You did. No, I was kidding. Yeah,
Okay.
I had it and was able to label it and get it out to my guys. So, you know, one of the things that Shallow mentioned in his episode with us was how he's using technology to kind of make sure his guys. I'm going to start doing that exact same thing with my group, right? Like we're going to start doing more Zoom sessions throughout the week leading up to the first event so that we can really narrow and identify what the codes need to look like and possibly make changes, but then also do some studying with the codes. And I'm going to do some one-on-one Zooms with some of the guys to help them kind of better understand the codes and situations and scenarios. Just my guys who maybe are a little bit behind experience-wise, try to get them kind of up to speed.
And really there's another advantage to that a lot of people don't see or think about. And that is you're still engaged in thinking about paintball in the game during the week. So as you head into the weekend, when you're about to be physical with the game again, right, and the rest of your teammates, the game's never been out of your brain. It's, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday night, we're having these Zoom calls. We're having these discussions. We're having these one-on-ones. We're watching tape. That's something that I used to do significantly. I would have a great layout practice when we were doing the 2 weekends. And I haven't done it so much with Canes. I probably need to re-implement it. But what I would do in the previous teams I coached, I would film every point we played. And then that evening on Monday, after everyone went home on Sunday, by Monday evening, they had 3 to 4 of those points in their inboxes. And you all need to watch this tape. And under each one of the videos, it would talk about what we were doing, what our opponent was doing, why we did it, what went well, what didn't went well. And then boom, 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 boom. And then Tuesday night, guess what? 3 to 4 more points. And then Wednesday night. And so that way they had the layout all weekend, even though they were doing their regular jobs and et cetera. So
throughout the week. Sure. Yeah. We filmed the practice. Yeah. We filmed it, but we just filmed us because it's for me specifically. I'm not giving you your film.
I know.
Just kidding. Of course I would. Well, man, like, what a great
we're already
practice.
An hour and a half in. Do we want to do these brackets real quick?
I got them here. I got them ready. But I just wanted to say, thank you. Like, what a great weekend and fantastic start to the season. And, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, we'll be in Paintball Fit with Paintball Fit. And I think maybe one other team's coming. I don't know yet, but nonetheless, I feel more. I feel like we're ahead of the game, right?
Yeah,
which is great. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Well, you're certainly welcome, and we had a great time. We learned everything, and we can't thank you enough for coming to us, especially when it was probably a little bit warmer where we were. So
that was so much warmer. So much warmer. I mean, I came home. When I got home on Monday because my flight got canceled. I got home Monday and it was like literally 2 degrees, felt like minus 22.
Yeah, I think that's
what I got off the plane too.
We were like mid to high 50s on both days, I think by 1 or 2 o'clock. So
yeah, it was gorgeous.
Yeah,
absolutely gorgeous. So
all right, Group A for the Las Vegas draw: Dynasty, X Factor, Russian Legion, AC Diesel, and Blast Camp. You wanna start this one, or you want?
Goodness gracious, goodness gracious.
I mean, talk about a baptism by fire. Now I know everyone talks about brackets of death, right? And sometimes you have them, sometimes you don't. I'm looking at this one and I'm thinking this is most assuredly the bracket of death.
I mean, I certainly think so with how well the Russian Legion played at World Cup, and then adding, J-Rab is just going to make them even better. X Factor got stronger, I think, with the addition of Matt Jackson. Dynasty got stronger with the addition of Danny Schonauer. I think I still feel really good about my guys. I look at this, the group, and to me, this is awesome, right? This is the kind of group I want, because you make it out of this group, you are prepared. You are going to have gone to some wars to get to the next place, right?
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, so I'm excited about this bracket. I think it's great. Anytime you play Dynasty, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I think we match up well against X Factor. Same thing with Russian Legion. I think we match up well with them. Who knows about Blast Camp? We'll certainly not take them lightly. But man, for Blast Camp to come in and get this draw at the first event, we're going to learn a lot about Blast Camp, and from multiple facets, right? You're going to learn about how resilient they are, or maybe vice versa. Maybe they're for real and they're going to play really well and surprise a few teams. And I can tell you that the 4 teams that they're playing, none of them are going to take Blast Camp lightly. Nope. And they're going to play them like they're the best team in the league. And it's going to be rough. I mean, I don't want to pick from it because it's mine, and I know we're going to do that later with Shane, but wow.
Yeah. Honestly, first of all, I think we all know that Blast Camp prepares for events very well, right?
Absolutely.
So they're going to know the layout back and forth, and that's integral here. I look, you have a tremendously talented squad. You just do. You have a tremendous amount of experience. Obviously, I'm a big fan of you and your coaching. So I think you've added that force multiplier aspect to the Diesel. So I know no one's looking past you guys. Russian Legion, like you said, J-Rab, they had a consistent improvement the last 2 events, of the season. And like you said, adding J-Rab's just going to add that one more element. X Factor, come on, it's X Factor.
Right.
Basically, Matt Jackson comes in and replaced Tom Guest, who went to Ironman, and Cody Mikowski, who went to AC Diesel. But it's X Factor. It's such a consistent team. And then finally, Dynasty. What can you say about a team that's been performing at that level as long as they have, as consistently as they have?
I don't even want to talk.
You're adding that threat of Danny Schonauer.
I don't even want to talk. I'm so tired of talking about them.
Yeah, me too. Let's talk about another team in blue. Let's talk about Group B.
Yeah, Group B: Damage, Infamous, Hurricanes, Austin Notorious, and the Ironmen.
Damage, no changes. But why would you? Why would you make any change to that roster? Right. Yeah. Look when you've got the talent between the Edwards brothers, you got Rainey, you got my boy, Chad, you got Keith. You've just got everywhere.
Agent Smith.
You've got capability. You've got a depth chart, and you've got gunfighting galore. And then you add that motivation aspect from Joey, where he'll kick them all in line. You don't change anything, because honestly, when I play team like Damage, I feel like I'm up against a cabal of coaches, not just.
It's interesting too, as you go down this in your pool, in your group. So Damage, Infamous, very few changes.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, no changes.
No change.
Austin Notorious, mass changes,
mm-hmm.
right? Ironman, mass changes. So honestly, that pool should be, it'll be another tough one to really gauge until we get a couple of looks at the Ironmen and see kind of who they're going to be. And same thing kind of with Austin Notorious. We'll have their coach on next week that Grant Piani and I'll kind of be one-on-one next week. And so I'll kind of go through some of that with him. Maybe we can get some insight to what the roster is going to look like.
Sure.
And that'll be helpful, but really I don't think there's a lot of question marks in Group B. The top 3 teams in that pool should be the top 3 teams, unless the Ironmen come in and can put it together really quickly right off the bat and play really well. And they certainly can.
Yeah,
they certainly
absolutely.
can.
Well, I mean, you look, Infamous was a team on the rise this past season, right? They started off a little slow, but then they really came on, and their performance at World Cup was outstanding. So, you can't, and Travis, right, which I'd love to have talked to him this evening, but we've already talked about Damage. Infamous, obviously, I believe Taylor, obviously, Thomas Taylor goes to NYX, but other than that, there's still that same core team that was on the rise, that was showing that steady increase. Notorious cuts Rene Rodriguez. I don't get that one. But that's just me. I felt he was one of their stronger players, but we'll see what happens there. And the Ironman, like you said, holy crap. I mean, so I think what's interesting about them, O'Mara, Sense, Guest, Geiger, Vasquez, you've got more attack now, and I think like guys like Geiger and Vasquez, they fit into that Iron Man bloody knuckles perspective, right? Of like attack. So I think if Shane can focus that razor blade, it's going to be dangerous.
I totally agree. So Group C, Houston Heat, Baltimore Revo. It still says ML Kings. Oh, yeah. That's right. They can't rebrand yet. But you're right.
Miami will be Kings. Miami Kings.
Yep. Miami Kings, Uprising, and Paintball Fit. Kind of on the other side of the coin, we were talking with Blast Camp. I think Paintball Fit's got a real shot here. I think they have a great opportunity.
This is a great draw for Paintball Fit. This is a great draw.
So you have a Revo who's a little bit in chaos, right? With all the moves that have happened kind of on their team. You have the Miami Kings who've cut.
We're in a rebuild.
Yep. Cut lots of players. Got Harris Hussein coming in. So I don't know if I'd call it necessarily a rebuild, just kind of adding a new big personality and then kind of getting rid of 3 of their guys. So that, they're going to run with 8, which I think is a good idea. But we don't know what they're going to look like now. I still haven't heard what's going on with Woodley yet, if he's still a part of the group or not.
I was going to ask you that. I wanted to know if you knew anything about Woodley. So
no. And then Seattle Uprising picks up Shane Howe, right? Like the ageless assassin, who brings some fantastic maturity to that group. And if the Snakes have been like the Snakes have been, Shane could be a real weapon for them. He could do some good things.
And Uprising's in every match that they're usually playing, and you never know which Uprising you get. That's said about them a lot. I'm a fan of Uprising. Uprising kept me from being a professional paintball team with Birmingham Prime. They were our big rival, and so I really appreciate those guys. Graham Arnold, all those guys, they know what they're doing, and I'd imagine they're going to come out pretty hungry. But I do think this is a good draw. Revo, I think they just lost Velez, right, to Impact.
It hasn't been announced, but I keep hearing it.
Yeah, I keep hearing that too. But then I look at it and I look at Weaver, Carroll, Anamaso, Abel, Devin Stewart. I look at those 5 guys. I'm like, yeah, it's a pretty good core starting 5.
Really good team, right? But just a lot of new pieces.
Right. So will Mike Jeffries be able to, again, focus the sun, and make them razor sharp there, that first one. Obviously, big news. It appears that for Heat, they've made a change at the coaching level. And I believe Ryan Smith will now be coaching Houston Heat. Now, when Ryan Smith coached them last, they won World Cup.
They were fantastic. I was talking to Ryan Moorhead on Friday. One of the things Ryan mentioned is that Ryan Smith is maybe one of the best coaches he's ever had. And for Ryan Moorhead to say that,
wow,
the guy's been around for a really long time, had some fantastic coaches. And we're going to get Ryan Smith on. Can't wait to kind of get him on, pick his brain a little bit about, what his philosophy is going to be, what the group's going to look like. But I don't know that, Houston Heat is such a group of sort of consummate professionals.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Yeah. I don't know how much different necessarily they'll look. I respect the crud, out of Todd Martinez, and I think he's a great coach. And maybe there was just some personality differences or something, but I do think that Houston Heat maybe didn't have the best year. And that's probably, why they made that change. They just assumed, well, maybe it's the coach. And I don't know. We'll see, right? If Ryan comes in and they start playing really well, then maybe it was, You
Yeah,
know,
well, you and I have talked about this a lot, especially in I have this same philosophy, right? I took full accountability for my team's performance at World Cup, and I feel like ultimately, from a leadership role, the buck stops here. Now, I don't know if Sarge or Ryan or Todd or felt the same way, but after 3 seasons, I think Todd was there for 3 seasons.
yes, sir.
Without, I don't think they had an event win in those 3 years. They had some very close, like several seconds, I believe. I'd have to double check. But eventually you have to look at, okay, well, we know we've got this talented roster of elite players. Eventually you've got to look at the leadership, right? Perhaps that's it. And again, that's all speculation. I have no insight to that. I agree with you. I think Todd's a great coach. Maybe, hey, maybe they're trying something, who knows, but again, I think you look back at it, the last time Heat really was smashing people, Ryan was at the helm.
That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, Heat's got to be the favorite there, but I think Paintball Fit has a real opportunity there. I do. I'm excited to see kind of what this new Revo looks like, without Henry and O'Mara. But I think Paintball Fit's got an opportunity in that pool. I think it's
they
a great
could really
draw
be
for
the
them.
spoiler on that one. Yeah,
they could. And, they're so good off the break.
Mm-hmm.
They are so good off the break. Field layout is going to be critical for them too. I think if it's the right layout where they've got some good sized lanes to shoot through, Paintball Fit has a real opportunity.
That's right. Absolutely. I agree.
All right. Group D, we got Impact, New York Extreme, Aftermath, the Brooklyn Bears, and Aftershock.
Yeah. And we don't know Aftershock's roster, so we can't really say anything about that. We can talk about the Bears, their merger with NRG.
But we still don't know their roster. Like, they just cut another guy. Or I don't know if they cut him or he left. I saw on the NXL Facebook page, one of the guys who's been there for a long time.
That's right. I remember seeing that as well. And I do know that 2 of their one went to semi-pro, and
they both went to semi-pro.
They both went to semi-pro. That's right.
Yeah, Ivan and Chris Caputo, Gonzalez, Chris Caputo went to Leverage. So I have no idea either with the Bears kind of what they're going to look like. I don't know what the roster is going to be. I just don't know enough. I have reached out to their coach. We're going to get him on. But again, I'm trying to get these coaches on like after they've kind of gotten their moves made and rosters filled and those kind of things, so we can have real conversations about what's going on. And
I think the Bears one will be a great interview, though.
He's a lot of fun. He's got a lot of energy. Aftermath, no changes, I don't think.
No, but after their performance at the last 2 events, they're again a team on the rise. I think they're starting to get into their groove. And you're starting to understand what their capabilities are, and they're performing great within that area. So
totally agree. They're a team on the come up for sure.
I agree.
For sure. After Extreme,
New York Extreme.
I don't even like it. I think New York Extreme will win an event this year.
I think, yes, I agree. I think, after talking with Rich and Dan and seeing what they are able to do, one of the best things I heard, and maybe it was at the beginning or middle of the season last year, but I can't remember who said it on Extreme, but somebody was complaining about their draws. Someone was saying, oh, well, you keep getting these easy draws, which to me in the professional division, when you hear these things, I kind of laugh.
Yeah.
But people are saying you're getting these easy draws. But what was great was the response. And I wish I knew which one of who said it, because I was like, what a great. He goes, yeah, well, the old NYX would have, blown that draw, right? Wouldn't have. They would have gone 2-2, and now we're going 3-1 and 4-0. I'm like, what a great response, right?
Uprising was the only team that they lost to in the prelims twice. That's it.
It's absolutely incredible. So yeah, I think we're going to see something out. I mean, if they keep that trajectory, my goodness, man, it's going to be interesting. And then finally, we've got Impact. They added Urena. They lost Matt Jackson. This team's going to be fine. I think Impact's going to be fine. I don't think, and who knows? I expected to hear a little bit more coming out of that camp. They've been awfully quiet. Would love to see. I'm trying to set up a practice with them. So
they kind of go dormant in the off season. Like Trevor Reeser, who lives here, sometimes I'll like, hey, what's going on with the team? He's like, I don't know. We don't really start talking until
they're snowed in Canada
until several weeks before the event. He's like, we don't really start talking until a few weeks before. I'm like, okay, all right, cool. That's interesting.
Well, I think, who knows what'll happen with Aftermath? Who knows what'll happen with Aftershock? But I think right now, based off that group, Extreme and Impact do have to be the favorites.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well,
I mean, Aftermath could sneak in there, but who knows?
Who knows? Listen, what's the word we're using left and right? Parity. So I think this season is going to be the wildest season in a long time.
Man, I hope so. Right.
Like, right. I wanted to, not for both of our sakes, but for the fans and for paintball as a whole,
I hope we're manifesting it. I just want there to be such a, I want there to be, don't get me wrong. Like I love the Dynasty guys and what they do, and watching them do, like, I just feel like they're not just the way that they play, but what they do off the field, they do with so much joy, and they're having so much fun, and that's having fun. Yeah, and that's so fun to watch. But the reality is, as a fan, I want to see some parity. I want to see some other teams get in there and mix it up with them. It would be cool to have a couple of different teams win some events this year. Hopefully one wearing green and black.
Preferably one in a light blue type.
I mean, we've been seeing a lot of blue for years.
Yeah, but this is a light blue. This is a new blue.
Yeah, but it's blue.
It's a new blue.
It's blue. So
you like y'all's colors, though. Your team's colors are cool.
Man, this has been a blast. I'm glad we were able to pivot into this and share a little bit of some of the information that people have been asking for on the socials. I will let people know on our socials before this airs that they're going to need to watch it, because we have a lot of displays.
Right.
So a lot of moving pieces going on. But again, thanks so much to you and the Hurricanes and LA Extreme and Drew and his mom for hospitality. It was a ton of fun. And we'll certainly, of course, be back. Hopefully we can get in the same tier so we don't have to worry about it for event 2, and we can just go ahead and schedule it.
Wouldn't that be great? I mean, that would be wonderful. And
it would.
Listen, you guys are always welcome. It's just been fantastic.
Well, we're not coming in June.
No.
Or August.
Yeah.
I love you, but I don't love you.
I don't understand why you wouldn't.
Actually, for event 2, I think you guys should come to Houston. I think we're going to play Houston Heat as long as we don't pull them.
Right. We are working on that. We're actually working on that with Heat for this event, but
okay.
You got to them first. So
no, we're playing Tampa Bay Damage.
Oh, that's right. You're going to Florida.
Going to Florida.
That's right. So I think Heat's over in X Factor, I think. So.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, for the second event, you guys should
try and get out to Houston. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. I talked to Yaya and he said, let's get out there. So next week, I will have Grant Piani, newest coach in the NXL of Austin Notorious, on.
And you'll be solo, brother.
And I will be solo. Mike is got some family things he needs to take care of. So I am going to be one-on-one with the newest coach of Austin Notorious, which would be really exciting, right? I know a lot about that team, of course, from the last 3 seasons with them. So it'll be neat to kind of dig in a little bit and see. He probably has seen a bunch of things that I didn't see, because he's got different perspective and wasn't there for 3 years, and they've already had a workout together. So it'll be cool.
I'll be tuning into that one for sure.
Yeah. So really quickly before we go, I just want to say thank you to Jake Jones, who spends hours and hours and hours putting all this content together. We have failed to be gracious for 10 episodes. So we'll try to do a much better job making sure we say thanks, and thank you to Major League Paintball and Tom Cole and Kevin Fillers. And as always, please like, comment, share, hit the bell down below us. Make sure that you can be notified when we go live. If you have comments, make sure please we do go back and kind of look at the comments and answer questions. If you're making just statements about how much you don't like the show, we probably won't respond to that. But if you have real questions, we'd love to see those below. Anything else?
I was going to say, keep the questions coming too, whether they're on the show or in the socials or what have you. We might even start a segment where we pick one random question and answer it directly to you, call you out on the show, and who knows, maybe send you something. Maybe
we are talking. So we've had so many people asking about some coaching questions and things like that. I'm working with Major League Paintball and trying to find a way where maybe once a month or something, Mike and I can go live in the evening time, which I know is terrible for our international viewers, and I'm really sorry. Maybe we'll try to figure out how to do one on a Saturday for you guys. But we're trying to figure out a way, maybe, and when I say a way, we have a way to do it. It's just logistically how to put it together. So we are working on that, where maybe we can go live and take questions from you guys. That's not really been the focus of the show. We've tried to be a little more just content driven, but if there's things you guys want to know until that time comes where we can do a live show, just make sure that you can send me a DM or a PM, and we'll get back to you and try to answer your questions. I think we've when they come in, I try to answer them as quickly as possible. So don't hesitate to ask us questions.
You do a great job. Keep it up.
Thanks, man. Mike, have a fantastic couple of weeks. I will see you very soon, my friend.
Yes, sir. God bless.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you all for watching, and be responsible.
Discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Can't fucking do this? Then do it. Do it 100%, because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
You gotta be a champion to become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success.